My game lacks rogueliteness, and I need to fix it. Let me explain. A good roguelite should give the player choices and have some sort of randomness to make sure no two runs are the same. With Hyperslice, I don't want a super deep upgrade and procedural level system. I want to keep the rogue aspect quite light, if I can say. But right now, runs are very similar, and players don't get that many opportunities to make choices. I don't like that, so let's fix it. Because you're supposed to play multiple runs before defeating the game, I think it's crucial to give the player some choice throughout the run. Most roguelites do that as it gives the player some sort of agency. In some cases, the choices are probably not that meaningful, but they feel great and allow the player to decide on a strategy. As a player, you want to feel some sort of control, and roguelites are quite random by nature, so giving options to the player make them feel good. The first thing I implement to give more choice is optional challenges during the wave. This is an idea I had to increase the difficulty of early waves. Some players complained that the game was too easy at the beginning, and I feel like this is a common problem in roguelites. As you play the game over and over again, you get better, and you'll see the early waves or levels a lot, so it can become boring. The idea here is to introduce optional challenges that can reward good players and hopefully make the early waves more interesting and engaging. These challenges can be to do 2 or 3 kills multi-kill, don't get damaged, etc. If you have ideas and suggestions for these optional challenges, please let me know. Because they're completely optional, beginner can just ignore them and focus on the enemies. I'm still not entirely sure how this will work though, as the challenges can feel limiting and not necessarily worth it. You get gems, combo, and points, so it's really interesting for high score chasing players, I think. I have to iterate on that and test with players to see if it's something that works or not. If you're interested in helping me test these changes I'm talking about in this video, don't hesitate to try the demo. It's on Steam right now. The second thing I introduce is more difficult waves you can choose to face to get a reward. It's similar to the optional challenges during a wave, but you get the choice before starting the next one. I'm thinking more enemies with shields, more health, etc. The cool thing with a choice like that is that it rewards you for taking a small risk, which is going to be evident for good players and more of a real risk for less good players. This is a nice change of pace, and it's pretty cheap for me to implement. So far, these waves can be enemies with more health, shielded enemies, way more hazards, and finally faster enemies. I'm also thinking about adding very fast spawn times, which could be quite difficult on later waves as you have way more enemies spawning. Again, I'm open to suggestions, so don't hesitate to let me know. Of course, these events appear at random time and allow the player to make choices and modify their experience slightly. While it's not groundbreaking, it's a small addition that can break the monotony of a run and force the user to make a decision and a small gamble. Speaking of gambling, I think adding a gambling option from time to time allows the user to just have fun. It allows us to embrace the randomness aspect of a roguelite, and I like that. The way I implement the gambling is that you're presented with a gamble and you know what you'll lose or win and with what probabilities. This gives the user some control and they can decide to risk it or not. I see it as a useful mechanic in 2 occasions. One, your run is not going great. You're struggling, so you gamble because you don't have a lot to risk. Second, you're experiencing the exact opposite. You're doing great and gambling is not a huge risk, but it can still make you even more powerful. Meta progression is not yet implemented, as I wanted to focus on stuff that would be in the demo. I want to keep it simple, so I think I'm going to unlock new upgrades and abilities between runs. Similar to what you can do in Go Mechable, you can buy new upgrades and weapons, and they're unlocked at random. I think this creates a cool loop where you're tempted to create new things you unlocked without making it a complex system. Of course, you'll also be able to unlock new ships with unique ultimates, but it's already there. I just need to implement the currency for those. Speaking of currency, I'm still unsure how to do it exactly. I think I'll keep gems as a currency both in run and outside of a run, but I don't know how much you should keep when you die. Do I give the player the ability to store some of these gems during a run? This could be interesting. If you have suggestions, please let me know in the comments.
Hey, Mr. Elliptic from the editing. I realized that I forgot to talk about other things that I implemented to add more choice, randomness, and diversity in the gameplay. For example, you can choose between grabbing an upgrade or a reward. A reward will be, for example, lots of gems, and it will be very low pressure, something you can't take damage, you can't get killed, but you can just grab a lot of gems. I think that's a nice way to give a choice to the player, do they want more gems to buy something later or buy an upgrade? And also it's a nice change of pace because you do something for a moment where you can't get killed, which is pretty cool. I've also added a payload mechanic, so you have special scenes where the goal is not to kill enemies, but to protect a payload. And if you manage to protect the payload, you get a reward depending on its health. And finally, for combat, to change a bit the pace, I added a survive for X seconds mechanic and a kill all enemies under X seconds mechanic, in which you need to survive for a long time where waves of enemies are coming, or you need to try to kill enemies as fast as you can, at least under a certain amount of time, to get a reward. I think it's a nice change of pace. You're still just killing the enemies, but it's a bit different, which should be cool.
Supporters on Patreon help me continue my journey and make videos like these and more on my second channel. If you want to support me, head over to patreon.com/MrElliptic. Thanks. Originally, this game was supposed to be a small game, centered around the core idea of dashing. As I worked more on it, on and off for multiple months, it slowly became bigger and bigger. I feel like the more time I spent on it, the less I was comfortable with the idea of keeping it small. If you've seen me live on Twitch, you'll know I'm a professional doubter. It's so easy for me to think that what I'm doing is shit and not worth the effort. I think that's why it's very valuable, at least for me, to try to focus as much as possible, as it leaves less space for doubts. Which is the opposite of what I'm able to do at the moment. Don't get me wrong, taking a step back and allowing yourself to breathe and think about things is great, but it can lead to unnecessary questioning. This caused me to turn Hyperslice into a more classic roguelite with more upgrades, abilities, randomness, etc. I keep adding these things because I feel like the game is not enough otherwise. I'm starting to realize nothing is set in stone. You just have to be very clear about what your game is and is not. I understand now that I lack game design skills and thus I don't know what I want and what is enough. I've played other games that have roguelite elements and are yet super simple. No real upgrades, meta progression, or even randomness, or very limited. This should have been clear since the beginning, and it's kind of in a way. I started the game as something that should stay small and quite arcadey. I never aimed at making a big roguelite like Isaac or Hades or I don't know. The goal was to have a tight and enjoyable experience, and I thought the roguelike formula made sense since the game was small enough to let you get better each time. With that, I think I'm done with the modification on the loop. I want to finish this game. I'll focus on making sure the gameplay is tight and interesting, and that's going to be it. There's one last big thing I want to do though. I want to do a good pass on the enemies. I want to make sure they're varied enough, balanced, and interesting. I have some ideas to create new ones and also things I want to tweak in the current ones. For example, I've been thinking about making the game way more bullet helly, and I'm really excited to try this. Well, to be honest, it took so long to make this devlog, I've already started, and it feels great so far. And if you don't want to miss it, make sure to subscribe here to see that in the next devlog. I would love to get your feedback, so please give the demo a try, and while you're at it, drop a little wishlist, it helps a ton. If you want to learn more about Hyperslice, you have my previous devlog here, otherwise the algorithm thinks you might enjoy this video. Bye!